Welcome back to the Make Time for Success podcast. This is episode number 201. I just want to start off by saying I really loved this episode and this interview because I had the chance to talk with the truly inspiring guest, Sarah Aspinall. Sarah is the incredible founder of Breaking Ballet, an innovative online ballet fitness program that she designed to make sure women had the space and the opportunity to be fit, to live in a healthy way, and to have positive mindset in their day-to-day lives. In the episode, we do a deep dive into Sarah's personal story, and you're going to hear Sarah very generously share the life-changing moments that happened to her that also helped her to really decide what she wanted to do with the rest of her life, how she wanted to live her life in alignment with the values that were important to her. It's truly an inspiring and motivating story. So if you're looking for some strategies for getting moving again, or for how to prioritize your health and well-being, stick around, stay tuned, and let's just start listening to the episode together now. Hi, I'm Dr. Christine Lee, and I'm a psychologist and a procrastination coach. I've helped thousands of people move past procrastination and overwhelm so they could begin working to their potential. In this podcast, you're going to learn powerful strategies for getting your mind, body, and energy to work together so that you can focus on what's really important and accomplish the goals you want to achieve. When you start living within your full power, you're going to see how being productive can be easy and how you can create success on demand. Welcome to the Make Time for Success podcast. Hello, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Make Time for Success podcast. Today, I have a lovely and wonderful and insightful guest. We have Sarah Aspinall joining us today. Sarah is the creator of Breaking Ballet. We're going to hear all about how we can fit in exercise and make exercise happen in our busy lives. Sarah, welcome to the show. I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Could you please do me a favor, since we are new to each other, if you could introduce yourself more fully to our audience, and we're going to get to know Sarah together.
Sure. Yes, I'm the founder of Breaking Ballet, which is a unique online ballet fitness program for women in midlife. And that came about, it's an interesting story. So I started dancing when I was 2 years old and subsequently got a scholarship for ballet school when I was 14, but my parents were not keen on me taking that path for a multitude of different reasons. And I'd always had an interest in law and the legal process. So at 14, decided I would take that path instead. So fast forward a few years, I was a lawyer in London, specializing in litigation and libel. And I did that for over 10 years. But it was on my 30th birthday when I visited New York with a friend. We only went out for a few days as a sort of birthday treat. And I'd been contemplating for a while a different career path at the time, because I was thinking, I want to have children. How am I going to manage being a mum and working the long hours that I was working as a lawyer? And I did work really long hours and unpredictable hours. That was the other thing. So that was all in the background. And on my 30th birthday in New York, unfortunately, we were mugged at gunpoint. And so I'd had this sort of near-death experience that was very surreal. And it happened on my actual birthday, which was interesting. We flew back to the UK the following day, and I was in the Court of Appeal on a case that day. So I'd had a busy day and came back to the office. And one of the partners said to me, "How was New York?" And I burst into tears and told him what happened. He said, "Go home." And I lived very near to the Tower of London. And so I walked home. But unfortunately, on my way home, walked into a gang of young men and was assaulted on my way home. So I hadn't had a great 48 hours. went home, shut myself in my flat and didn't leave that weekend. And that was really the catalyst for me saying, or sort of reflecting and thinking, well, I've been feeling for a while that this career isn't conducive to me living the kind of life I want to live. I had very specific values. I still do. Beliefs. I had a sense of who I was as a person. But that was certainly my identity was starting to become very confused. I didn't feel like I was living in alignment with my values. So I did a lot of thinking and processing and, looking at, well, what am I passionate about? What do I want to do for the rest of my life? And it always came back to ballet, always. And so, it was that time where I decided, I don't know where this is going to lead me, but I'm going to go back to Royal Academy of Dance, retrain as a ballet teacher. And I was in a fortunate enough position. I was married at that time to do that. I didn't know where it would take me. I spent 2 years training, taking my firstborn with me to tutorials and things. I was amongst very young, sort of late teens, early 20s students who were, thinking of teaching as well. Now I was in my early 30s with a baby. So I was very committed and did it and started teaching local classes. I was very inspired by an Australian teacher when I was at the Royal Academy of Dance who had been showing us floor bar, so floor-based movement to help students strengthen their bodies. And at the time I was pregnant in my second year of my qualification. And so I wasn't allowed to lie flat on the floor. So I got to watch. And that was the time where the penny just dropped. And I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to do this fusion between ballet and fitness, which is what I had done as a lawyer. When I was working very long hours, I was really struggling to find time to exercise, which I'm sure so many women, with these types of careers struggle with. And I tried kickboxing. I was going to the gym very early in the morning, knowing I wouldn't get an opportunity once I walked into the office. And I had been lucky enough to find a lady over from the States who was teaching the New York City Ballet at the time. It doesn't exist anymore, and I fell in love with that. So I had that going on in the background. Then I experienced this teacher on my course and I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. And I want to teach adults. But I started out freelancing at dance school, teaching children, which I adored. Then I started teaching adults and it just grew from there really. And I was being contacted by adults from different parts of the country because they'd seen my Facebook page asking me, have you got classes here? Have you got classes there? And of course I hadn't. So that's what prompted me to then take everything that I do online. And that's when Breaking Ballet was born.
Thank you so much for describing your story and the complicated path that you've been on. Those of you who are listening, Sarah and I had tried to record this episode once before. So in that failed recording, you will hear me gasp when she mentioned the mugging and then the assault, because I did not know that. And I had asked in that failed recording how movement might have become the healing or how movement functioned in Sarah's life. And so I'm going to ask that question again. If you could describe the role movement has played in your life and your healing too.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think it started at the very beginning when I was 2 and I was a painfully shy child. My mum was quite concerned at how shy I was. I didn't like anyone looking at me. I wouldn't speak. I would hide under a skirt if, any of her friends tried to talk to me. So she had started taking me to different things like gymnastics, which made it worse. Lots of different, play groups and things. And then she took me to ballet. And I don't know what it was. I suspect it was a combination of the teacher, who was just wonderful, the live music, the pianist, the classical music, what I got to wear, and just that environment, that whole feeling of being in that room. And I did make my mum dance with me for 6 weeks at the back. And my mum is definitely not a ballet dancer, but she did. And then I let her leave and I completely fell in love with it. And it is absolutely that dance that fostered the passion that I continue to have for that form of movement, for all forms of dance. I've trained in I was tap dancer, jazz, everything when I was younger. And I think that it enabled me to express myself in ways I was not able to do. Even at the early stages of going to school, I was still struggling with, I would never speak up in class. If the teacher called out my name, I would go bright red. I hated being in the spotlight. But if you got me to dance, I could have anyone watch me. So it was a form of expression, a form of communication. I felt safe. I just felt wonderful. It was pure joy for me. And that form of movement that had kind of saved me as a young child and nurtured me through those early years came full circle when I experienced, the mugging and those experiences. I came back to it and I was like, that's, it kind of almost saved me all over again, because I went back into that. I, previously was thinking, well, health is one of my top values, and I'm not sleeping, I'm not eating well, I'm not exercising, I'm not doing any of the things I know I need to do. And so I thought, if I change and I do this, I'm now living in integrity. I'm living in alignment with my values, where previously I hadn't. And it was not an easy decision. I make it sound as though one day I was a lawyer and the next day I became a ballet teacher. It was tough. It was really hard. I was letting go of a career that I had worked extremely hard for. I was letting go of, a really high salary, all the sort of glitz and glamour that can come with that type of work, which by that point I was kind of getting tired of anyway. But I was traveling, I was meeting celebrities. I had, what on the outside would look like, quite an exciting job, but it just wasn't fulfilling for me. And so, movement is my go-to whenever I need to shift my mood now. And I see that happen with clients as well. So it's been almost like therapy, I suppose. And it's got me through some really rough times. And I've never stopped since. And now I spend my time helping others do the same.
That's beautiful. A beautiful story, and definitely full circle. And I am going to reflect again. When I heard you tell the stories of the traumatic events the second time, I noticed my own nervous system reacting. And so I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the role of movement in helping you and other people to know how to regulate their nervous system. If you could just teach us what you know about these topics.
I think it depends what angle you're coming at that from, because there's obviously lots of different forms of movement. And a lot of the time we talk about exercise, people think, I need to exercise, not I want to. I need to exercise because I want to lose weight or I want to tone up. Especially when we're younger, it can be for aesthetic goals. As we get older, I'm 48 now, it, I think, changes slightly, or at least I hope it does for most people, in that we start to think more about our mental health and our physical health in terms of, certainly through perimenopause and menopause, reducing those symptoms, future-proofing our bodies, heart health, all the things that we all know about, that we're all told you need to exercise because X, Y, Z. But some of the things that we're not aware of are things like collective effervescence, which was the topic of my TEDx talk that I did in 2023. And I think now that I understand more about that, that makes sense why I felt at home in my ballet class as a very young child. So this collective effervescence, which is this feeling of euphoria when you move together with others in synchrony. And we've all experienced it. If you've ever been to a music concert, a football match, there's chanting, there's movement. I had it last weekend when I went to the theatre with a friend, and it was the last performance. The choreographer came on stage and he had the whole theatre moving, and the smiles on people's faces. It's incredibly uplifting, but that sense helps to build trust and connection with other people. So I think that side of it is important when you are thinking about your nervous system, in the sense of connection with other people, which we all know community, social connection is really, really important for our health and our well-being. So that's one side of it. But the other side of it is we can't help ourselves unless we have an awareness of how we're already feeling. And so for me, and it will be different for different people, ballet-inspired movement has always helped me go inward and focus on my bodily sensations and how I am feeling, both emotionally, physically. It almost feels like a spiritual practice to me. If you're running on a treadmill and watching something on a screen or listening to a podcast, you're not tapping into how your body feels. If you are exercising and you're using a kettlebell, you're focusing on the kettlebell. You're not necessarily focusing on your body. And I do both of those things. It's not me criticizing that form of movement. It's just me trying to explain what ballet movement has done for me. And for different people, it'll be yoga, it will be Tai Chi, it will be, different things. But as soon as I move, and this is what I help my clients with, move in a purposeful way, in a more mindful way. And of course, with ballet, there's an artistry to it. You're not moving for movement's sake. You're moving with purpose to make those movements look a certain way, which requires feeling. And once you can experience that and you become more self-aware, you become much more able to tap into your body, understand what is going on, identify feelings, aches and pains, upset, tiredness, all these things. And then we can use that to help, move forwards, remedy the situation. And of course, breathing, which I know you are on board with, and to help calm that nervous system down, is part of ballet movement. It's part of dance movement, and of course yoga and other forms of movement, is using the breath to enhance movement, to lead movement, to hold movement. And all of that, I think, also combined with the classical music that I use, helps to just calm everything down and really tap into the body and help in the same way that you would meditate to do that. It's a form of moving meditation as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, this is sparking so many questions in me. Thank you for that beautiful description, starting from collective effervescence, which I'm going to run to your TED Talk and watch that. But I'd never heard that. But of course, I am a big experiencer of that because I love going to live concerts, shows, music, dancing. And I think that's something that I really just very naturally know is something that lights me up and gets me in a better mood and reminds me of the energy of this life, of our world. So thank you for giving words to that, first of all, and doing this work and educating about the power of that. I am curious about how to help more people get into regular exercise as you are. And I'm wondering if the feelings relationship is a big part of that.
I think it is. I think we're so busy now, especially women of our age. We've been pulled in so many different directions. We might have teenage children, we might have elderly parents. There's not a second that goes by where we get time to ourselves, emails and all sorts. So, we are bombarded constantly with activities and things that we need to be doing. And I don't think we help ourselves sometimes. So even when we do get 10 minutes spare, we might scroll mindlessly through socials or Netflix or something. And I think for me, it was a case of really just stepping back. And I think you're right, because I have danced, I can't remember a time where I didn't dance. And dancers are very intuitive. Dancers know exactly how they're feeling, what's going on in the main. Of course, there's the exception for some people who have experienced trauma, who have, put things away and not dealing with them and end up later on going through therapy to try and help work through that. We can help ourselves. And this is where I think the identity piece comes in. So often I talk about this as part of the process in trying to make time to exercise. I talked about values, which is part of it. So, what is your value system? And if you have health at the top of that and career comes further down the line, but you spend all your time traveling around the world for your career, you're not living in alignment with the top value, which is health. So it's an awareness not only of physical sensations, emotional sensations, it's about our belief system as well. And we don't always think about that. We think, I want to move, I need to move, I'm supposed to move, I should be moving, all these things. Actually, no, you get to move. If you're able-bodied, you get to move. And that is something to be hugely grateful for. But how do you get from feeling the way you are at the moment, possibly listeners, haven't moved for some years or maybe just weeks or months? How do you get from that position of doing nothing to actually moving on a regular basis? And it's a staged process. But as I say, identity is a really important part of that. And that is asking yourself, who you are. How do you see yourself in the context of movement or exercise? And often people will come into my classes new and I will go to them and say, it's nice to meet you. Any injuries I need to know about? Yeah, I've got injuries, but I'm really lazy. I'm really unfit. But I have all this negativity around exercise and movement. And it always sort of takes me back a bit because I was just like, this is not what I was asking, but that's interesting. And that is information that I need to know. And yes, you're here and I will help you move, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done around that. And the identity piece is, if I say to someone, oh, do you go running? And they say, oh yeah, but I'm not very good or whatever. The difference between saying I go running and I am a runner is huge. Mm-hmm. But if you go running, you are a runner. If you go to dance classes, you are a dancer. And if you can identify with that, there's lots of evidence to show that in terms of behavioral change, this identity piece is really important. So yes, it's important to identify how we're feeling emotionally, and we can, movement and dance can really help process some of that. I've had people in class burst into tears many times because they've started to move their body for the first time. It's done with classical music, which can bring things up, but they've opened themselves. They've opened their bodies. They've opened their minds. They've experienced the music. It's very moving and stuff comes up. But at the same time, we also need to be looking at these other pieces and how the mindset completely gets in the way of us moving our bodies. It's never really a physical thing. Yes, we have injuries, but you can work around injuries. That doesn't stop you from moving your body. And it's the mindset piece that is so, so important. And that's the thing that most of us are struggling with. That's the barrier to exercise, I think.
I would tend to agree. I also thought, as you were describing the collective effervescence and that section of the conversation, I was thinking that, social connection is prioritized and we're given free license to go meet the people we need to meet and connect with and network. But when it comes to health and exercise, it really always sounds like we have to make time for it, as opposed to it being just a full enriching part of our everyday life. I'm wondering what your thoughts are as to why it feels like that.
It's because it's not natural, which sounds weird. But when we look at our ancestors, they were moving out of necessity. So they were hunting, gathering, they had to move. Otherwise, they were not getting fed. They were getting eaten by lions, whatever. But it was born out of necessity. So now, obviously, it's not natural for us to do voluntary physical exercise. Our ancestors would have looked so perplexed if they saw us getting on running machines. Like, why are you doing that? Yes. What is the point of that? It's just boring. So they wouldn't have understood that. Dance has been a part of tribes and tribal tradition and everything for a long time. So dance, in a sense, is natural, but it wasn't done to stay fit. It was done for celebrations. It was done to mark occasions. It was, it was part of what they did because there was they weren't watching Netflix, let's say that. So now we are struggling to voluntarily exercise because we're not programmed to do that. But equally, we're not programmed to sit sedentary doing nothing. We need to move our bodies as our ancestors did. So we have this very awkward relationship with exercise where, we're programmed to take the path of least resistance. And that is to sit on the sofa, order food online, to, look at Netflix, do all of these things. We don't need to move off our sofa the entire day if we don't want to. We can do pretty much anything from our phone. So that poses a problem for us. So unless we can see that exercise is necessary and, to your point, enjoyable, and that it's in some way rewarding, we're not going to do it. So those three things are really, really important when it comes to making exercise happen. And in terms of necessity, enjoyment, choose something you enjoy doing. You're not going to enjoy it every single time, of course, but choose something. There's no point me saying you need to run if you hate running or you're unable to run because you have a knee problem. That's pointless. Choose something that you enjoy doing most of the time. In terms of necessity, how do you see exercise as necessary? That's a very, very personal thing. So in other words, I ask my clients, well, what is your why? Why are you in my class? Why have you signed up for my program? Why are you here? And the answer to that question might start out being, oh, I need to drop some weight. Why do you need to drop some weight? Oh, I want to get back in my size 12 jeans. Okay. Why don't you just buy bigger jeans? No, I don't want to do that. I want to be there. But why? Because I felt confident then. Now we're getting somewhere. Why did being that size help you feel confident? Or why is it important to feel confident? I want to be able to walk into a room like I used to, standing tall, etc. So that's, if you drill down, actually a lot of people's whys is not an aesthetic. It's a health reason. It's a feeling. You want to change the way you feel. So that can be someone's why. Sometimes that can be because you yourself have experienced a health issue or someone close to you has experienced a health issue and it scares you and, you want to make sure that you're doing all you can to protect your health. Obviously, we can't ever rule out every risk, but we all know it's good for your heart, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I won't go into all of that and how vital actually it is for women over the age of 40 as well. We absolutely must be moving our bodies. It's such a personal thing. For me, my father passed away with Alzheimer's disease when I was 26. So I was quite young when I lost him. And I don't want my children to have to go through that. So protecting my brain health is right at the top of my list. Yeah. And I know that movement is the absolute best thing that I can do for that. So that's mine. Yeah. I want to role model to my children that I am prioritizing my health, that it is not selfish to do that. And I think a lot of women worry about, they feel guilty because, well, I should be with my children rather than going out exercising. No, exercise and show them, especially your daughters, I am putting myself first because no one's going to do it for you. Role model to them, this is what's important. And no matter what, you do it. And ask for help. Mummy's going out here and doing this now, so you'll need to get on with that, obviously, when they're a bit older. You role model to your friends, it is important and no one's going to do it for us. I hopefully one day will have grandchildren. And the other thing is I want to be able to get up and down off the floor playing with them without holding on to something, having to take a minute, everything hurting. I don't want to be like that. I want to be mobile and fluid and fun. So I've got those reasons. Those are my whys, but it will be different for each and every person. So when I don't want to get up, in the winter in the UK and it's dark and I want to get up in the morning to exercise and I'm under my duvet and I don't want to get up in the dark and the cold, that's what I think about. It's like, why am I doing this? That get up. It works.
And I have a feeling you've guaranteed that you're going to be the most agile grandmother we've seen. So
I hope so.
I love this. I hope so too. Please give us a quick explanation of breaking ballet, because I'm sure you have motivated so many of our listeners to decide for themselves how I'm going to make my health and my movement a priority now. So please share with us what they can access through you.
Yeah. So Breaking Ballet has its own membership, and that's called Backstage. And the membership platform is very, very holistic. It's not only got workouts inside there, it has, so we have 3 pillars. So you've got your movement, then we've got the healthy eating and the mindset toolbox. So as you have heard from, this session, mindset is the key to unlock everything. So it's all in there. It's a wonderful, wonderful community. And quite often people have said to me, I just want the workouts. I don't need everything else. They come into the community, they do the workouts, and they stay for the community because that is where they find the support. It's where I am. It's where, I'm on hand to help them with any issues they have. And it's a community that is so important for us women, that connection to motivate us to continue moving. We have a calendar in there. So all the workouts are on the calendar. So every single day, you know what is on the calendar. So you're not wasting time procrastinating, trying to choose a workout. You don't know what you should be doing when. So I never wanted to just have a library of workouts where people have had no guidance, didn't know what they were doing. So it's very prescribed. You can just go in the library and do whatever you want if you want to. But every Sunday I send an email and say, this week, this is what's happening. These are the workouts. I have a guest expert every single month come inside the membership, as you well know, because you are going to be one of them, yes, talking about specific topics that my members want to learn more about. So we've had lots of amazing people come in and talk about a variety of different issues. I do a live workout every month. We have challenges at the beginning of the month to get people going again if they've kind of dropped off a little bit. I'm constantly talking about the issues that we have been discussing on this session as well. So it's just that constant reminder for women that they are inside a caring community of like-minded women led by me, but the content is driven most certainly by the members. And I try to provide them with everything that they need to keep moving. And the workouts cover a variety of different formats. So we know as women in our 40s and beyond, we need to be doing strength training. So that is in there. We know that we need to be doing cardio to protect our heart health, but a very particular type of cardio. So we're doing HIIT rather than, zone 2 training and long cardios. And then all the restorative work. So the stretching, the mindful movement, the body scans. So exactly what we were talking about, tapping into that central nervous system and calming things down. So it's a complete package for people that want to do something slightly different to music, that, want to become more self-aware, I guess, and experience that lovely artistic way of moving.
That is beautiful. So thank you for creating this experience of collective effervescence for women who are interested in really rooting exercise into their daily lives, which I think is a beautiful mission, truly, truly. So thank you for being here. I know you have a free download for our listeners, and I know it's called Making Exercise Happen. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's on the website. It's breakingballet.com, Making Exercise Happen. Yeah, but you'll have the link, but it contains some of what we've spoken about. So it's the key steps to actually getting yourself moving. So I do talk about the necessity, the enjoyment, and the reward that we didn't really tap into today, but and various other mindset techniques that will keep you moving. Yeah.
Okay. The link will be in the show notes. I'm also going to create it right now. It's going to be maketimeforsuccesspodcast.com/exercise. Again, it's maketimeforsuccesspodcast.com/exercise. And I just advise anyone who's listening and who wants to stay in touch with Sarah to get that download, and then you'll be in her universe, which is a lovely universe indeed. So Sarah, thank you for bearing with me as we navigated the tech issues, and for being my new friend and my new mentor. And I look forward to meeting you soon in your membership. And thank you so much for your time today. It was amazing.
Yeah. Thank you, Christine. I really appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me and listening to my story as well. I really appreciate it.
Pure pleasure. All right, everyone. You know where to find me next week. We'll have a next episode on Thursday. Thank you so much for being here. Take care and have a great one. Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Make Time for Success podcast. If you enjoyed what you've heard, you can subscribe to make sure you get notified of upcoming episodes. You can also visit our website, maketimeforsuccesspodcast.com, for past episodes, show notes, and all the resources we mention on the show. Feel free to connect with me over on Instagram too. You can find me there under the name Procrastination Coach. Send me a DM and let me know what your thoughts are about the episodes you've been listening to. And let me know any topics that you might like me to talk about on the show. I'd love to hear all about how you're making time for success. Talk to you soon.